everyone. I'm sitting here with Dr. Kim Barber, whose political roles include Vice Mayor of Monterey, a DWMC board member, California Democratic Party delegate, and the California Democratic National Convention delegate. And you can read more about her and her outstanding list of accomplishments on the DWMC website. But right now, I wanted to share with you all some of her insights as a leader within our community and within our state. So, Dr. Kim, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today and to be able to share common thoughts and visions with you.
Okay, terrific. Well, let's just jump right in. So,
All right.
can you tell us about your journey into politics and what inspired you to pursue a career in public service?
Wow. So yeah, I get asked that question a lot. Sometimes I ask my own self that question. It came from a family root. My father was in politics. My father and mother were always about public service and serving and helping people. That's always been a part of who we are as a family. So I've always seen this even growing up as a child, and then of course, and as a teenager, then as a young adult into adulthood. And so seeing him actually in politics actually did not have the impact that you would think to get me here. It actually had a different impact. I actually had a more negative impact. I did not want to do politics. I didn't want to have anything to do with politics because of all the things I saw that my father had to go through. And especially being a minority, I saw a lot of things that he had to go through in the area of Washington, D.C. area, Maryland. And so because of that, I knew that it took a lot. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how much it takes away from family. When you are a politician and doing a lot of public service, it's a lot of sacrifice that people don't see. And so my father did a lot of sacrificing. My mother did a lot of sacrificing. We as children did a lot of sacrificing. So as a child and as a teenager, I was like, I don't want to do anything to do with politics. But I always had the public service mentality. I always wanted to help. I was always helping the community. I was always doing something in that type of scope. And so, not realizing that public service is politics in some sort of way, however you look at it, right? But as a young adult and as a teenager growing up in it, I didn't see the correlation. So, I kind of left it alone, except for I continued to do public service wherever I was, whatever community I was in. And then all of a sudden, it's one of those things that it must be in your DNA or something, in this case, at least, that it just started kind of bubbling up in me like, okay, seeing things that weren't right, seeing needs that needed to be met. It started with CSUMB and seeing my students going homeless, seeing my students not being able to finish. And I know you can relate because you're an administrator as well, but seeing my students not being able to even finish up school because of the fact that they didn't have housing. And so I started getting involved on the housing level. And I remember going to the meetings and speaking up and trying to see what was happening with housing, how I could help with housing, talking to other nonprofits and seeing how I could help my students to find, housing. And so I remember meeting Mayor Tyler Williamson at these meetings along with several others, and started getting involved just in the housing element, and not with him specifically, but every time I would go to different housing meetings, he was always there. And so one thing led to another, and I continued to do a lot with housing with students and with community and working with nonprofits and working with different parts of the community. And the next thing you know, um, my hat's in the ring for city council. And I think during a lot of things that happened prior to COVID and during COVID in the world that really was alarming, really was concerning. And I just kept feeling and hearing that call that, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's easy to talk about it, but what's your action behind it?
It's so true. Yeah. Well, this is kind of the perfect segue then into my next question for you. And that is, what long-term changes do you hope to see in the political system, and how do you envision contributing to those changes?
So, in the political system as a whole, I just hope that we can be able to have more what I call fairness, um, equitable decisions, decisions that involve inclusivity of community and of the people who are being governed. To have a political system that really is hearing and listening to everyone, right? Not just the 1%, but listening to the 1%, but also listening to all the other 99, right? But being able to have a more inclusive and governing and democratic, if you will, system. Because right now our democracy is definitely in an alarming way. Our democracy is being threatened. And so that would be one of the biggest things is actually seeing democracy, right, in the political system, and not speaking just as a party, but speaking as a nation of who we should be and what the system should look like because of what we are founded on as a democratic society. And so I think being able to see that and have more value in the people and their voices, and being able to have more inclusivity about having more seats at the table, not taking any away, but add more seats to the table.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's really inspirational. And so it sounds like that's contributed to why you decided to run for office. But then how does that correspond with the leadership role that you've chosen to take within the Democratic Party? And along those same lines, how did you become a California Democratic delegate, a CADEM delegate?
So really, a lot of the leadership positions that I've had and have are all about how can I help someone? That's my question I always ask. So whatever position I'm in, whether it's leadership or whether it's not leadership, as I don't have to have the title to be able to lead, right? And that's what people forget. I don't have to have that title. I still want to be able to help someone. And so mine is always coming from how can I help? How can I help? So I'm always going to be looking at collaboration. Collaboration is a big thing for me. I love collaborating because I know that we can't, not one person can do this by themselves. It will take all of us. And because it's going to take all of us, that's why collaboration is big on my approach, and being able to have that service leadership through collaboration and being able to help others. And so by taking leadership in different positions within the Democratic Party, nationally and locally, that's helped. When the call came out for applications for election for CADEM, for the nation, for the DNC, for the Democratic National Convention, I said, okay, I'll put it in there. I have no idea, whether, this will work or not work, but we'll see, if it's to be, it will be. And so when I did that, surprisingly enough, I actually won. So again, it was one of those things of a calling of like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And so I did that, and I was very humbled to be able to represent, to be one of the representatives, one of the delegates for CADEM on a national level, to be able to see more of what I can do to help, even from a national level, collaborations and what we learn from other states, what we learn from our, neighboring states, and what we learn from even within our state ourselves. We learn a lot from even, from the north to central to southern parts of California, what we're doing and the things that we can collaborate on and how we can move the needle forward together.
So that's so interesting. Can you say more about what your responsibilities are as a delegate?
So as the national for the DNC part, that has a lot to do with voting on different, in this case, voting when we had the switch from when President Biden sacrificed and stepped down and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris, being able to get behind the party, and from California's part to work together with all the delegates within the state to push it forward, to be able to let people know about it, to also be able to vote on it, so that we could push everything forward and be ready for roll call and everything else that's coming forward here, and not recently, but here in the next few, well, actually, couple weeks for the DNC. But it also entails a lot of meetings. A lot of meetings prior to is a lot of work that's done even before it got to that part. It was a lot of work that was being done collectively and talking about the importance of what we were doing collectively and independently in every state of what we needed to do, things where the needs were, and being able to address the needs and working together. So it really was about what I like, which is collaboration and working together. But hearing from people from all over the nation and what they're doing and why they're doing it, and then hearing the different needs that they are facing and seeing how it's similar to some of ours, but also finding out how some of our needs may be different and how we can work together and getting more ideas across and being able to build things up. So it was really just really building everything up for the election. And a lot of that dealt with collaboration of seeing the different activities and grassroots that were being done in every state to see how we could work together and making sure the things that we're doing here in our state collectively.
Got it. Wow. It's a lot. It's really interesting. And I'm just going to interrupt this sort of flow a little bit and just say
Sure.
thank you for your service, you know.
Oh, thank
The-
you.
yeah.
It's humbling and it's really a pleasure. I'm constantly learning, constantly hearing, constantly asking questions. I know Kadem is like, oh my gosh, Dr. Barber, like I ask questions constantly, what about this? And how does this go? And what about this process? And all the other pieces. I'm just learning all these things, but I'm eager to learn them so that I can make sure that I'm doing the best job that I can in representing the delegation that I've been given.
Mhm. So along these same lines, before I switch channels a little bit, um, does it have any impact on your role as a vice mayor of Monterey or any of the work you do specifically here in Monterey County, even on the DWMC board?
Mhm. So I guess as vice mayor for the city of Monterey, I don't I think it doesn't have a direct impact. I don't bring those pieces there, but it helps me with knowledge and understanding of getting a lot of the background of a lot of policies and a lot of different other processes so that I can be able to do a better job at even my position with the city. As far as with DWMC, it's very helpful because it's directly impacted where I can bring a lot of the information, a lot of the ideas, a lot of the process, and a lot of the energy of knowing how important it is for us here and now for DWMC. For all people all over the world, and I say world, yes, and I don't say it by mistake, but for the world because the world is always watching America. Yeah, right. And a lot of times they're taking the lead. And so it's important for us as a nation to understand we're in the fight of our lives
Mhm.
and to understand that, every position, every person, no matter who you are or how you identify, we need you.
Mhm.
Everybody, we need you. This is the collaboration I'm talking about. We need you so that we can be able to go forth and win for us as Americans, period, all together, all across the board. This is our time. And if you're in any position, whether that's the position even at work, a position at Democratic Party, a position even in Republican Party, it doesn't matter. You need to be able to see what this fight is really about. It's not just choosing a party and saying, okay, that's the party I'm going to go for, but understanding what this party, the Democratic Party, is actually doing right now for this whole nation in the world. We are fighting for our lives. And we must have everybody to take up and do everything they can do and making sure that everybody votes and remembering and understanding, yes, it does count. It makes a difference. When you don't vote, then you really don't have a space to say anything because your inaction still is an action. And so it's very important for us to understand that we need to get behind this. Young people are coming out and seeing Kamala Harris takes Vice President Kamala Harris take that step, and for her to have that courage. So now we have to have the courage to be able to back her, and not only to back her, but to back democracy. And DWMC, as women, we really need to be rallying around everything we can do for Vice President Kamala Harris.
Mhm. That's so true. And the great thing is there is such a wave of excitement and enthusiasm in support of our Vice President
Yes.
Kamala Harris. So it's very exciting. So along these same lines, then, how do you think the Democratic Party can better support and promote female candidates at all levels of government?
Sure. I think it's very important for us to always promote um, candidates that are going to have the same values as us. Right. First, definitely a woman. We want to promote them, but that doesn't. I don't discount, voting for men who have the same values for us. That's very important to know. But for DWMC, for me, and I'm also definitely dealing with women empowerment. That's kind of like my mantle. So this important to me, and I love to be able to see and uplift women who have the same values as us into position. But I think that we have to also make sure that when we say the same values, that means that their actions are following that. Because some people can say, "Yeah, I have these values," but their actions may not be following that. So I think it's important for us to always look at that. We must always validate,
Mhm.
right? I think it's important that we always validate, because if you don't, you can be fooled by a person just saying, yes, that's my value, but then their actions don't validate it. And so
Mhm.
I think making sure that we continue to encourage and uplift, support, and validate.
Mhm. Amen. Yeah. Okay. So my last question for you is, how can we, that is like both the DWMC and our members, support getting Vice President Harris elected into presidency?
One word, vote. But and of course, vote and work. Vote and work, vote and work. And that means with working, do phone banking, do signs, tell people about it, have conversations at your dinner table, have conversations at, during the work break. Cause I know you have some jobs have to have that separation, but if you're on your lunch and your work break, you can have those conversations. Have conversations, talk to people, and make sure people understand, it's not about them and us. This is
Mhm.
about all of us. This is about us together moving forward. This is about democracy. This is about not letting it become a dictatorship. This
Mhm.
is about making sure that we understand that our very lives in a lot of cases are at stake. So I think people just need to understand the realness and the seriousness of what we're doing, and understand that it's for everybody. We are not leaving anyone out. We're
Right.
thinking about the 99% and the 1%.
Mhm.
So what we have to do is vote, help people register to vote, and have the conversation so that you can push the people to be able to vote. It's important. It's their right. People died for that right. And we need to make sure not to take that for granted.
That's right. That's right. That's great. Thank you so much. Do you have any closing words that you'd like to share with our membership before we sign off?
The only thing I would like to say is that, first, thank you for all the service that you've done for all these years, even before now. Thank you, because it makes a difference. Thank you to the membership and all the work that they are doing and what they constantly do with their support, whether it be financial support, whether it be actually in-kind support, whether it's actions, whether it's talks, whatever it is, whether it's coming out to the luncheons, whether it's coming out to the different events. We need you, and we
Absolutely.
need more of you to come forward and get involved at any level, because this is important not only for this election, but going forward. We need you, and we need to be able to move forward together so that we can get where we need to go.
So true. So true. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Kim, for your time. And we look forward to seeing you at the next DWMC event and, of course, our board meetings. And thank you to all of us who are taking the time to join Dr. Kim and I. And I wish you all a glorious rest of the day or evening. And may all things flow with ease and grace. And remember to vote. See you later.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.